My name is Olivia. I am 27 years old, and my whole world is my younger sister, Alina. She is only 14. We live together in a small apartment in Seattle. It is not big or fancy, but it is ours. The two of us have made it a home. Sometimes, when I look at Alina, I still see the little girl who used to hide behind our mother's skirt whenever she felt shy. But now, she is growing so fast. Her eyes are bright, curious, and full of questions about life. She loves books, painting, and the little stray cat that sometimes waits near our building for food. I try to give her as much normalcy as possible, even though life has not been easy for us. We lost our parents when I was just 19. I still remember that day as if it happened yesterday. It was sudden. A car accident. One phone call, and everything I had known about life shattered into pieces. I can still hear the sound of my aunt's trembling voice telling me, "They're gone." For a long time I thought I was dreaming, or maybe trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. At 19, I was barely an adult myself. I was still in college, still figuring out who I was, still unsure about my future. But all of that disappeared in a single moment. Alina was only 6 at the time. She didn't even understand what death really meant. She only knew that our parents weren't coming back. That night, after the funeral, I sat with her in our room. She cried until she fell asleep, clutching my hand like it was the only thing keeping her safe. And maybe it was. I stroked her hair and whispered promises into the dark. "I will take care of you. I will never let anyone hurt you. No matter what happens to me, you will always be safe." It was a vow I made not only to her but also to myself. From that moment on, my life changed. I was no longer just a sister. I became her protector, her guardian, her parent. I had to grow up faster than I ever wanted to. The years that followed were hard. I dropped out of college to find work. We moved into a cheaper apartment. I learned how to budget every dollar, how to stretch a bag of groceries into a week's worth of meals, how to smile at Alina even when I felt like crying myself. There were nights when I would sit by the window, watching the city lights, and wonder if I was strong enough. Could I really raise her alone? Could I give her the future she deserved? Doubt crept into my mind often, but every morning, when I saw Alina's sleepy smile, I knew I had to keep going. Seattle can be a lonely city, especially when you feel like the world has forgotten you. The streets are always busy, filled with people rushing to work, but somehow, you can feel invisible among them. Yet, in that loneliness, I found strength. Because while we didn't have much, we had each other. Alina grew into a cheerful, kind-hearted teenager. She loved drawing little pictures on sticky notes and leaving them on my desk with words like "Don't give up, live," or "You're the best sister ever." She didn't know it, but those small notes kept me alive on my darkest days. Even now, as I write this, I can see her sitting at the kitchen table, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail, her book spread out in front of her. She looks so determined when she studies, so focused, as if she knows how much I have sacrificed for her. And in a way, she does. She never complains when I say we can't afford something. She never asks for things I can't give. She simply smiles, hugs me, and says, "One day, I'll make you proud." What she doesn't realize is that she already has. Sometimes, I wonder what our parents would say if they could see us now. Would they be proud of me for keeping my promise? Would they think I have done enough? I hope so. Because every choice I have made since that day has been for Alina. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what challenges still lie ahead. But I do know this: as long as I have breath in my body, I will fight for her. I will protect her. I will make sure she never feels abandoned or alone. Because I remember that night, the night when everything fell apart. I remember the tears on her cheeks, the fear in her small voice. And I remember the promise I made. It was a promise carved into my soul. A promise that became the reason I wake up every morning. A promise that still whispers in my heart, "Keep her safe." And so, I live every day with that vow guiding me. I may stumble. I may break. but I will never let her down. That is my promise. After losing our parents, I knew one thing for certain: dreams would have to wait. I had once imagined finishing college, becoming a teacher, maybe even traveling the world. But the moment I took Alina's little hand and whispered my promise, those dreams were put away like books on a shelf. What mattered now was survival. So, I started looking for work. At 19, I didn't have much experience. I sent out applications, walked into stores, and asked if they were hiring. Most shook their heads. Some didn't even look up from their desks. Every rejection made my chest feel heavier. Finally, after weeks of searching, I found a small pharmacy downtown. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay was modest, but they were willing to train me. The manager, Mr. Karim, was a middle-aged man with neatly combed hair and glasses that always seemed to slide down his nose. He looked me up and down when I came for the interview and said, "We'll start you at the counter. If you're reliable, maybe we'll see." I didn't care about promotions or titles. All I needed was a paycheck. And so, I began my job there. The pharmacy was always filled with a faint smell of disinfectant and cardboard. Shelves lined with bottles, packets, and small boxes surrounded me each day. Customers came in with prescriptions, questions, or sometimes just a headache that needed solving. I greeted them with the politeness my mother had taught me, smiled even when my feet ached, and tried to learn quickly. At first, it felt good. I was doing something responsible, something steady. I would come home with just enough money to cover rent, groceries, and Alina's school needs. On good days, I could even surprise her with a small treat, her favorite strawberry yogurt or a second-hand book. She always smiled as though it was the greatest gift in the world. I convinced myself that things were getting better. But slowly, cracks began to show. One evening, after closing, Mr. Karim asked me to stay behind. He said we had to organize a late delivery. I was tired, but I needed the extra hours. He led me into the back room where boxes were stacked high. Some were neatly labeled, but others were damp, with smudged writing or missing labels altogether. "Put these on the shelves," he said, pointing to the unlabeled ones. I hesitated. "But, we don't know what's inside." He gave me a sharp look. "Don't worry about it. Just do as I say." So I did. But uneasiness crept into me. I told myself maybe it was just a mistake, maybe the labels had been ruined during shipping. Still, something didn't feel right. A week later, an elderly woman came in coughing badly. I recognized her because she had visited before, always kind, always smiling despite her illness. I sold her a syrup from the shelf, one of the bottles I had placed there during that late shift. The next day, her daughter stormed in, furious. She slammed the syrup bottle on the counter and said it had made her mother worse. I froze. My stomach twisted. Before I could even respond, Mr. Karim appeared beside me with his calm, professional smile. "It must have been a mistake," he said smoothly. "Bring the bottle back, and we'll replace it." His eyes met mine for a second. There was no kindness in them, only a warning. "Don't say anything." The customer left angry, and I was left shaken. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling of our apartment. My thoughts spun in circles. What if I had hurt that woman? What if more people were being harmed? Was this pharmacy really safe? But then I thought of Alina. The rent was due. Her school fees needed paying. If I lost this job, what would happen to us? So, I told myself to stay quiet. To just do what I was told. To ignore the gnawing feeling in my chest. Yet fear had already begun to take root. Every time I stepped into that pharmacy, I felt as if eyes were watching me, as if secrets hid behind every shelf. I smiled at customers, but inside, my heart whispered, something is wrong here. Still, I kept working. Because when I came home each night and saw Alina's face, when she hugged me and said, "Thank you for the snacks, Liv," or showed me her new drawing, I remembered why I was doing all of this. I was keeping my promise. And for now, that had to be enough. At first, I convinced myself I was overthinking. I told myself, Olivia, you're tired. You're imagining things. But the more I worked at the pharmacy, the more that whisper grew into a voice I could not silence. The first sign came one rainy afternoon. The city was soaked, and customers trickled in with damp umbrellas and dripping coats. I was at the counter when Mr. Kareem called me to the back. "Help me move these," he said, pointing to a set of boxes stacked in the corner. I lifted one. It felt heavier than normal medicine packages. When I glanced at the side, I noticed something odd, foreign writing, words I couldn't understand. There was no company label, no instructions, no barcode. "What are these?" I asked. His expression tightened. "Just a special order. Don't ask questions." He walked out before I could say anything else, leaving me standing there with the strange box in my hands. My chest tightened. Why would a pharmacy carry unmarked goods? Medicines were supposed to be carefully checked, documented, labeled. This felt wrong. That night, I cooked pasta for Alina. She chattered about school, about a boy in her class who kept borrowing her pens, about a new art project. I laughed, nodded, and tried to listen. But in the back of my mind, the image of that box haunted me. Special order. Don't ask questions. Was Mr. Kareem hiding something? Days passed, and the feeling didn't go away. Sometimes, I caught him whispering on the phone in the office. The moment I walked in, he would hang up. Other times, I noticed deliveries coming late at night, after the pharmacy had closed. Trucks pulling up, men unloading boxes quickly, their eyes darting around as if afraid of being seen. I started to wonder, what am I really working for? The breaking point came when a little boy came in with his mother. He was pale, shivering, his lips dry. His mother asked for a specific brand of medicine for fever. I checked the shelf, empty. Mr. Kareem, overhearing, quickly handed her a different bottle from one of the new shipments. She hesitated. "I've never heard of this brand." "It works the same," he assured her with a smile. "Just try it." I wanted to stop her. My instinct screamed at me. But what could I say? If I spoke up, I might lose my job. I might put Alina's future at risk. So I stayed silent. The guilt ate at me. That evening, after Alina went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my head in my hands. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I asked myself the same question over and over, am I helping people, or hurting them? I thought about our parents. They had raised us to be honest, to do the right thing, even when it was hard. My mother's voice echoed in my memory, "Live, no matter what, always keep your heart clean." But my heart no longer felt clean. For the first time, I wondered if working at the pharmacy was a mistake. Yet, what choice did I have? Rent wouldn't pay itself. Food wouldn't appear on the table by magic. Alina needed me. Still, doubt had taken root. The next morning, when I looked in the mirror before work, I saw the tired lines around my eyes. I saw the fear I was trying so hard to hide. And I knew something had shifted inside me. It was no longer just about earning money. It was about survival in a deeper sense. Not just keeping a roof over our heads, but protecting my sister from a world that seemed darker than I had realized. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Fear. Real fear. The kind that makes your skin prickle and your stomach sink. I realized I wasn't just afraid of losing my job. I was afraid of what I was becoming by keeping it. The first time I saw him, I thought it was a coincidence. It was late evening. The pharmacy had closed, and I was walking home with my umbrella, the rain tapping softly above me. The streets were quiet except for the sound of passing cars and the glow of neon signs reflecting on wet pavement. I felt tired but relieved, the day was finally over. That's when I noticed him. A man, maybe mid-30s, leaning against the lamppost near the corner. His coat was dark, his hair damp from the rain, and his eyes, sharp. Too sharp. He wasn't just standing there. He was watching. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Just another passerby. But when I turned the corner toward my apartment, I felt it, the prickle at the back of my neck. The sound of footsteps, faint but steady, following me. I walked faster. The footsteps quickened. My heart raced. Finally, I stopped outside a small grocery shop still open, pretending to look at the display of fruit by the window. In the glass, I caught a reflection. The man had stopped too, a few yards behind me, pretending to check his phone. But his eyes weren't on the screen. They were on me. I forced myself to breathe calmly, bought a loaf of bread I didn't need, and waited until another group of people walked by. Then, I slipped into the crowd and hurried home. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me sit up in bed. Every shadow across the window felt like a threat. I told myself again and again, Olivia, you're imagining things. It's just the stress. But deep down, I knew. Something had changed. The next day at the pharmacy, I couldn't focus. I rang up customers, smiled politely, handed out medicine, but inside, my thoughts kept circling back to that man. And then it happened again. It was a Thursday afternoon when I stepped out for lunch. As I walked down the street, I caught sight of him across the road. Same dark coat. Same sharp eyes. He wasn't close, but he was there. Watching. This time, I didn't wait to see what he would do. I ducked into a cafe, heart pounding, and sat by the window with a coffee I didn't even want. For half an hour, I watched the street. When I finally dared to look again, he was gone. I thought about telling Mr. Kareem, but something stopped me. He wasn't the type to listen. If anything, he'd just tell me to stop being dramatic or focus on work. Besides, part of me wondered if, somehow, this was connected to him. Connected to the strange boxes. The late-night deliveries. The unmarked bottles. The thought made me shiver. That evening, when I came home, Alina ran up to me with a smile. Liv, look. I got an A on my history project. She held up her paper proudly. I hugged her, forcing a smile. That's amazing, Lena. I'm so proud of you. But inside, I was trembling. Because the truth was, I wasn't just scared for myself anymore. I was scared for her. If that stranger was following me, if he was connected to the pharmacy, then what did it mean for us? I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. Questions kept flooding my mind. Who was he? Why was he following me? Did he want to scare me, or warn me? One thing was clear, my life was no longer normal. The promise I had made to protect Alina felt heavier than ever, and for the first time since losing our parents, I wondered if I could actually keep it. Because now, danger wasn't just a fear inside my head. It was out there. Watching me. The third time I saw him, he wasn't just watching. He spoke. It was a chilly Friday evening. I had stayed late at the pharmacy, helping Mr. Kareem sort the new shipment. The boxes were heavier than usual, sealed tightly, and I noticed he seemed tense, checking the clock, answering short phone calls, pacing. By the time I locked the doors and stepped outside, the street was nearly empty. Street lights flickered weakly, and a cold wind tugged at my coat. I pulled my bag close, ready to hurry home. That's when I saw him. The man in the dark coat. Standing across the street, under the shadows. My stomach twisted. I froze, my breath shallow. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he crossed the street. I wanted to run. Every instinct told me to. But my legs felt rooted to the ground, like they had turned to stone. Olivia, he said. Hearing my name made my blood run cold. How did he know it? You don't know me, he continued, his voice low but firm, but you need to listen carefully. I gripped the strap of my bag tighter. Who are you? My voice shook despite my effort to sound strong. He glanced around, making sure no one was near. You're in danger. The place you work, it's not what you think. My heart pounded. What do you mean? The pharmacy, he said. It's a front. Those boxes you've been moving, they're not medicine. They're illegal. My chest tightened. The whisper of doubt I had been carrying suddenly roared like thunder. I wanted to deny it, to say he was lying, but deep down, hadn't I already suspected? He leaned closer. You need to get out before it's too late. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Why should I believe you? His eyes softened for the first time. Because I've seen what happens to people who get too close. And I don't want you, or your sister, to be next. Alina. The sound of her name unspoken yet understood sent a shock through me. Fear wrapped around my chest like a chain. Whoever this man was, he knew about her. I took a step back. Stay away from us, I whispered, though my voice cracked. He didn't move. He just looked at me, almost with pity. I'm not your enemy, Olivia. But they are. And you need to decide quickly, before they decide for you. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the side street. I stood there, trembling, the cold wind cutting through me. My mind spun with questions. Who was he? How did he know so much about me? And if he was telling the truth, what was I supposed to do? By the time I got home, I could barely breathe. Alina was in the living room, watching a movie, her laughter filling the apartment. I forced a smile, kissed her forehead, and said I was tired. But inside, I was crumbling. I shut myself in my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and buried my face in my hands. Everything I had built for us, the job, the stability, the routine, suddenly felt like it was slipping through my fingers. For years, I had promised to protect Alina. To give her the life she deserved. But what if, without even realizing, I had led us straight into danger? I couldn't tell her. Not yet. She was only 14. She deserved her innocence, her laughter, her school projects. She didn't deserve to carry this fear with me. But I knew one thing for certain, from that moment on, life would never be the same. The warning had been given. And whether I wanted to or not, I had to listen. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, the stranger's sharp eyes, his urgent voice. The pharmacy isn't what you think. Get out before it's too late. The words replayed like a broken record, drowning out the sound of the rain against my window. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, clutching the blanket as though it could shield me from the truth. By morning, I looked pale, my hands trembling as I poured coffee. Alina noticed immediately. Olivia, are you okay? She asked, her voice soft, filled with concern that made her seem far older than 14. I forced a smile. I'm fine, Lena. Just tired. But the truth was tearing me apart inside. If what the stranger said was real, then I was working inside something dangerous. Every shift, every box I carried, every late night with Mr. Karim, I was playing with fire without even knowing it. I had two choices. Stay quiet. Pretend I didn't know. Keep collecting my paycheck, keep our lives stable, keep Alina safe in the only way I knew how. Or, walk away. Risk losing the job that kept us fed and sheltered. Risk angering people I didn't understand. Risk stepping into a storm I wasn't sure I could survive. All morning, the decision gnawed at me. At the pharmacy, I watched Karim more carefully. The way he snapped at delivery men, the way he guarded the storeroom, the way he checked the street through the blinds every few minutes. It was subtle, but once I started noticing, I couldn't unsee it. When I asked him casually about the new shipments, he brushed me off with a smile too polished to be real. Don't worry about that, Olivia. Just do your part. And for the first time, his kindness felt rehearsed. Fake. At lunch, I sat alone on a bench outside, the city buzzing around me. I pulled out my phone more than once, thinking I should call the police. Tell them everything. But what would I even say? That a stranger had whispered a warning? That my boss might be hiding something in boxes? They would laugh, maybe even investigate me instead. And worse, if Kareem found out, if the people behind him found out, I shivered at the thought. That evening, when I got home, Alina was at the table working on her homework. She looked up with her usual bright smile, the one that always melted my heart. "Liv, can you quiz me on vocabulary later? I have a test tomorrow." "Of course," I said, brushing her hair back from her face. And in that moment, my decision became clear. I couldn't take risks. Not with her. Maybe the stranger was right. Maybe the pharmacy wasn't what I thought. But walking away, reporting anything, drawing attention, it was too dangerous. For now, the safest thing I could do was stay quiet, keep working, and keep Alina far away from it all. So I made a silent promise, I would endure it. No matter how much fear clawed at me, I would endure it. Because survival meant keeping a roof over our heads, food on the table, and Alina smiling the way she was right now. But as I lay in bed that night, staring into the dark, another thought slipped into my mind, a thought that refused to leave. What if silence wasn't safety? What if silence was exactly what would destroy us? For a while, I thought I could live with it. I told myself the stranger was wrong. That I was imagining things. That the pharmacy was just a pharmacy, and Mr. Kareem was just a strict but hard-working boss. I buried my doubts deep down, locked them away, and tried to move forward. But the truth has a way of clawing back up to the surface. One evening, about 2 weeks later, Kareem asked me to stay late. "We need to finish inventory," he said. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I wanted to say no. Every bone in my body told me to walk away. But I needed the job. So I stayed. The pharmacy was quiet after hours, the shelves dimly lit, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Kareem handed me a clipboard and told me to count boxes in the storeroom. At first, it was routine. Numbers, labels, check marks. But then I noticed something strange. A row of plain cardboard boxes stacked in the corner. No pharmacy labels. No shipping slips. Just black marker codes I didn't recognize. Curiosity burned inside me. I knew I shouldn't, but I reached for one and peeled the tape back just enough to peek inside. My breath caught. It wasn't medicine. At least, not the kind we sold. Rows of small glass bottles filled with a clear liquid, sealed tightly, no brand, no instructions. Illegal. Dangerous. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it didn't belong there. Behind me, a voice spoke. "What are you doing?" I froze. The box slipped from my hands, landing with a dull thud. Kareem stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable, his eyes colder than I had ever seen them. My mouth went dry. I was just checking the shipment. I thought. "You thought what?" he snapped, stepping closer. The friendly tone he always used was gone. His voice was sharp, cutting. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. "I didn't mean, I was just..." His glare pierced through me. For a moment, I thought he might lash out. Then, just as suddenly, he smiled again, though it looked forced, twisted. "Curiosity," he said softly. "It can be dangerous, Olivia." The words sent a shiver down my spine. He picked up the box, taped it shut with steady hands, and set it back in the corner. Then he turned to me. "Go home. We'll finish tomorrow." I nodded quickly, grabbing my bag and rushing out of the pharmacy, my legs shaking beneath me. The night air hit me like a slap, but it didn't calm me. My hands trembled, my chest tight. I walked fast, glancing over my shoulder every few steps, convinced someone was following me. By the time I reached our apartment, I was almost running. Alina was asleep on the couch, her homework spread across the table. I tucked a blanket over her and sat down, trying to steady my breathing. But I couldn't. The stranger had been right. The pharmacy wasn't safe. Kareem wasn't safe. And now, he knew I had seen. That night, I couldn't close my eyes. Every sound outside the window made me flinch. Every car that slowed on the street below made my chest tighten. I realized something terrifying. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And no matter what I told myself, life would never go back to normal. This was the breaking point. The next morning, I woke with a heaviness in my chest I couldn't shake. My hand still trembled when I made breakfast. I forced a smile when Alina joined me at the table, but inside, my mind was spinning. I had seen the truth. I couldn't deny it anymore. Kareem was hiding something illegal, something dangerous. And he knew I knew. Which meant I had a choice to make. Do nothing. Keep working. Pretend I hadn't seen anything. Maybe he'd forget, maybe he'd let me stay. Maybe things would carry on as before. Or, walk away. Report it. Risk everything. But walking away wasn't simple. If I quit, how would I pay the rent? Alina's school fees? Our groceries? That paycheck was the only thing keeping us afloat. And if I reported it? What if Kareem found out before the police acted? What if they retaliated? It wouldn't just be me in danger, it would be Alina too. The thought of her, my sweet sister, was the only thing that mattered. Every decision I made came back to her. That afternoon, I sat on the park bench near our apartment, watching kids play, watching mothers laugh with their children. I wanted that kind of safety for Alina, that kind of normal life. And I realized something. Keeping quiet wasn't safety anymore. It was a trap. The longer I stayed, the deeper I sank. And sooner or later, it wouldn't just destroy me, it would destroy her too. I had to do something. That evening, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to an anonymous crime tip line I had found online. My fingers shook as I described the boxes, the liquid bottles, the strange deliveries after hours. I didn't sign my name. I didn't give my number. I hit send and stared at the screen, my heart hammering in my chest. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had taken control. But fear doesn't let go easily. For days, every time I walked into the pharmacy, I braced myself. Kareem's smile felt sharper now, his gaze heavier. I did my work quietly, avoided the storeroom, avoided his questions. And then, one Friday evening, it happened. Sirens. 2 police cars pulled up outside the pharmacy just as we were closing. My breath caught as officers stepped inside, flashing badges, asking questions. They went straight for the back, straight for the boxes. Kareem's face drained of color. He tried to talk his way out of it, but it was no use. Within minutes, they were pulling out evidence, leading him away in handcuffs. His eyes flicked to me once, sharp and accusing, but he said nothing. I stood frozen, my heart racing, until the officers left. The pharmacy felt empty, stripped of its shadows. That night, when I told Alina what had happened, she gasped. "Olivia, what are we going to do now? What about your job?" I pulled her close, brushing her hair from her face. "We'll figure it out," I whispered. "As long as we have each other, we'll be okay." Tears filled my eyes as I realized it was true. For years, I had lived in fear, of losing her, of failing her, of not being enough. But in the end, love gave me the courage fear never could. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Money would be tight, and life would still be hard. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I had chosen right. I had chosen Alina. And that was a choice I would never regret. The morning after that terrifying night, I couldn't eat. My body went through the motions, making tea, buttering toast for Alina, packing her school bag, but my mind was elsewhere. My thoughts kept circling back to the storeroom, to the boxes I had seen, to Kareem's eyes when he caught me looking. He knew. I had seen too much, and he knew it. The question that gnawed at me was simple but cruel: what do I do now? If I said nothing and carried on, maybe he would pretend nothing happened. Maybe he would let me keep my job and my silence. Maybe he would leave me alone. But I didn't believe that. Men like Kareem didn't trust. And the longer I stayed, the deeper I would sink into whatever darkness he was running. The other option, walking away, felt just as impossible. This job was my lifeline. The rent, the groceries, Alina's school fees, everything depended on that paycheck. If I quit, we would have nothing. And then there was the most dangerous choice of all, reporting him. Just the thought made me shiver. If he discovered I had gone to the police, he wouldn't forgive it. He would find a way to silence me, one way or another. That day, while Alina was at school, I walked to a small park near our apartment. The air was cool, the leaves rustling gently in the trees. Mothers sat on benches, laughing as their toddlers played. A group of teenagers shared snacks, carefree and loud. I watched them and felt the weight of my own life pressing down. I had never had the chance to be carefree. Since 19, my life had been about responsibility, sacrifice, fear. And through it all, one promise burned in me like a flame: I would protect Alina. That promise gave me my answer. I couldn't keep her safe by staying silent. I couldn't protect her by pretending nothing was wrong. If Kareem's world came crashing down, I didn't want her anywhere near it. That night, when Alina fell asleep, I sat in the dark with my phone in my hand. My fingers shook as I typed out a message to the anonymous crime tip line I had found online. I described the boxes, the unmarked bottles, the strange late-night deliveries. I wrote about Kareem's secrecy, his phone calls, his threats. I didn't leave my name. I didn't leave my number. When I hit send, I pressed the phone to my chest, breathing hard, as though I had just jumped off a cliff. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like relief. But fear didn't vanish overnight. The next few days were unbearable. Every time the pharmacy door opened, I jumped. Every time Kareem looked at me, my stomach twisted. I kept my head down, avoided the storeroom, did my work in silence. Then, on Friday evening, as the last customer left and the shop grew quiet, I heard it: sirens. My heart froze. 2 police cars pulled up outside. Their lights flashed against the windows, red and blue spilling across the floor. Kareem stiffened behind the counter. Before he could move, the door swung open and officers poured in. "Seattle Police," one said firmly, holding up a badge. "We need to ask you some questions." They went straight for the back room. Kareem tried to block them, stammering excuses, but within minutes, they had the boxes open. Bottles clinked as they were pulled out, evidence stacked against him. I stood frozen, barely breathing. When they finally placed him in handcuffs, Kareem's eyes found mine. His stare was sharp, furious, accusing. For a heartbeat, I thought he might speak my name, expose me. But he said nothing as they led him out into the night. The pharmacy was silent after they left, empty in a way it had never been before. That night, I told Alina everything. She listened with wide eyes, her hands trembling as she clutched mine. "Olivia, what's going to happen to us now? What about money? What about school?" I pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We'll figure it out," I whispered. "It might be hard for a while, but we'll be okay. We're free now. That's what matters." Tears burned my eyes as I said it, but they weren't only tears of fear. They were tears of release, of finally stepping out of the shadows I had lived in for too long. I had lived in fear every single day since I was 19. Fear of failing, fear of losing her, fear of not being enough. But that night, I realized something powerful: love had given me the courage fear never could. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know how we would pay rent or what job I would find next. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I had chosen right. I had chosen Alina. And that was a choice I would never regret. Thank you for watching this emotional love story on The Love Chapter by Aree. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories. Tell us in the comments which country or place you are watching from. We'd love to know where our family of viewers is growing around the world.